You know when you check your phone's weather app and the interface says, it's perfectly sunny outside.
Right, yeah. Like not a cloud in the sky.
Exactly. But then you physically look out your living room window and there is this massive, dark supercell storm forming right over your house.
Oh, man. Yeah. That immediate moment of profound cognitive dissonance.
Right. You're just standing there wondering, do I trust the neat little digital dashboard that says everything is fine? Or do I trust the terrifying reality I'm looking at with my own two eyes?
You usually trust your eyes in that situation. Hopefully.
You think so, right? Well, welcome to the deep dive. I am thrilled you are here with us because today we are basically looking out the window at the tech industry.
And it is definitely storming.
It really is. It is June 24, 2026, and the artificial intelligence industry is currently experiencing, it's an unprecedented identity crisis. We are watching the unstoppable force of AI development collide headfirst with the immovable objects of government regulation and, honestly, hard economic reality.
Yeah, because for years, the narrative around AI has been entirely dictated by the companies building it. It was always about potential, about product roadmaps, about what the next iteration of a model might be able to do.
Always the hypothetical future.
Exactly. But what we are seeing right now, this week, is reality crashing the party. The hypothetical risks and the hypothetical rewards are suddenly becoming very, very concrete.
So to help you navigate this storm, our source material today is just a phenomenal synthesis of the current landscape. We're digging into the latest edition of the Tech Reader AI Digest by Aaron Rose.
It's a massive data dump this week.
It really is. And the mission of this deep dive isn't just to, recite a list of tech news for you.
Yeah.
Because there is a ton of information coming out right now, from shocking government-mandated model shutdowns to these multi-billion-dollar compute infrastructure deals.
Right. It feels very disjointed if you're just looking at headlines.
Exactly. So our goal today is to connect those seemingly disparate dots. We want to extract the underlying structural shifts happening in tech right now so you can understand the board without getting bogged down in the endless noise of your newsfeed.
Which is much needed right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the biggest disruption of the entire year.
Anthropic. We are currently on day 12 of the Fable 5 and Mythos 5 shutdown.
12 days ago, the U.S. government ordered Anthropic to suspend these frontier models. And as of this exact moment, they remain completely offline for every single user on the globe.
Complete blackout.
And we really need to emphasize what this actually looks like on the ground, because this isn't just, a website being down for maintenance.
No, not at all. We are talking about API calls failing globally.
Right. And an API call is essentially just one piece of software asking another piece of software for data. Thousands of startups built their entire back-end infrastructure around the assumption that they could just ping Anthropic servers, feed it data, and get an intelligent response back.
And for 12 days, those startups have just been waking up to flashing error codes.
It's brutal. It is literally the equivalent of the government shutting off the electrical grid for an entire sector of the economy. There is no official restoration date, and there is absolute silence from both the company and the regulators.
Just total radio silence.
Now, I want to be clear. We are looking at this purely from a factual standpoint today. We aren't taking a stance on the politics or the justification of the intervention itself. We are just focusing on the sheer scale of the economic fallout.
Right. And the market's reaction to that fallout is where we actually find our first real clue about how this resolves. Because in the complete absence of official communication, the vacuum is being filled by prediction markets.
Okay, prediction markets.
The poly market specifically is seeing explosive activity right now. We're looking at over $2 million traded purely on bets regarding when and how Fable 5 will be restored. Yeah, it is the highest contract volume for any AI prediction market this entire year. Bettors are currently pricing in a 55 to 57% chance that we see a restoration before July 1 award.
Wait, I have to pause you there. Are we really treating polymarket gamblers as reliable sources for complex, behind-closed-doors government negotiations?
I know.
$2 million is a lot of money, but it's still just a betting pool trying to guess the whims of federal regulators.
It sounds absurd on its face, but you have to look at who is actually placing these bets. These aren't casual sports gamblers betting on a football game.
Right.
These are highly connected venture capitalists, tech insiders, and policy analysts who use these markets to hedge their actual portfolio risks. When you see $2 million aggregate around a specific timeline, it usually represents leaked sentiment.
Oh, I see. So there's real information driving the money.
Exactly. But the specific mechanics of that predicted return are what you really need to pay attention to. The market heavily favors July 8 for a U.S. first rollout, but it is not a return to the open sandbox.
Okay, so what does it look like?
The favored mechanism is a rollout via a persona ID verification system.
A persona ID verification system. So to use a frontier AI model, the market expects you will essentially need a government-compliant digital ID check.
Yeah.
Let's just think about the logistical nightmare of that for a second. We just talked about API calls these automated machine-to-machine microtransactions happening thousands of times a second.
Right, they happen completely in the background.
How do you attach a verified human driver's license or passport to an automated background process? It radically changes the fundamental architecture of the internet.
It really does.
We moved from AI as an open utility to let me scan your government ID to generate a Python script in less than 2 weeks. But while the government is laser-focused on those hypothetical risks of frontier models, the very real economic impact of the AI we already have is quietly being put into writing.
Yes, which brings us to Oracle. While Anthropic is dealing with Washington, Oracle just filed its annual SEC 10K report, and the numbers inside that document are stark. Oracle disclosed that their global workforce has dropped from roughly 162,000 people down to 141,000.
That is a staggering reduction in headcount, over 20,000 people.
Yeah, but the critical part isn't just the drop in employees, it's the specific reason they gave for it. Oracle explicitly stated in this regulatory document that AI adoption has resulted and may continue to result in reductions to our workforce.
Okay, what's fascinating here is the shift in the medium of communication. Aaron Rose highlights this brilliantly in the digest.
He really does. Enterprise AI is no longer just a software product category being pitched to chief technology officers. It is now a formally disclosed workforce risk.
I love how he framed that. Think of it this way. When ex-CEO claims that AI causes job displacement in a glossy marketing brochure or, during a podcast interview, it's a talking point.
It's just hype.
Right. It's like the flashy packaging on the front of a cereal box that says improves focus. It's just marketing to make the product sound powerful. But an SEC 10K filing,
That is a completely different beast.
that is a legally binding nutrition label. Corporate lawyers sweat over every single comma in a 10K because if you lie in it or mislead investors, you commit securities fraud.
Exactly. So when Oracle puts the AI job displacement thesis into their 10K, it becomes a legal reality. The theoretical debate over whether AI actually displaces white-collar jobs, that debate is officially over.
It's wild. The social contract of AI, the real human cost of deploying this technology at scale, is now priced, verified, and filed. It is on the public record.
Right, and every single enterprise AI contract signed moving forward exists in this new regulatory context. If you are an employee at a massive firm, the writing isn't just on the wall. It is legally documented in the SEC Edgar database.
It's a deeply sobering reality check. So with Anthropic's flagship models totally offline, locked in this silent regulatory battle, and enterprises actively cutting jobs to adopt AI, you would logically expect Anthropic's biggest rival, OpenAI, to capitalize on this exact moment.
You'd think so, right? Fable 5 is down. The stage is perfectly set for OpenAI to release their highly anticipated next-generation model and basically sweep the board.
But instead of throwing a knockout punch, they did something completely unexpected.
Yeah, the entire tech community was watching the June 22 to 28 launch window for GPT 5.6. It was treated by developers as an almost guaranteed event. The prediction market odds for a June launch of 5.6 were sitting at around 83% just a few days ago.
Wow, 83%.
Over the weekend, that window totally collapsed. Those odds plummeted from 83% down to 18%. The market is now shifting the likely launch to July, sitting at about 94% odds.
So they missed the window.
Yeah, and instead of a frontier model, OpenAI released a minor update to their existing model, GPT 5.5 Instant. They branded it as a personality update.
Okay, I have to push back on this narrative. I'm looking at this from the outside, and I'm seeing a massive tech company that just completely missed a highly anticipated developer deadline for their flagship product. Isn't the personality update just a shiny distraction?
Well,
I mean, they claim this makes the model much more fun to talk to and vastly better at reading conversational intent. Like, if a user wants emotional support versus a dry, detailed coding analysis, the model recognizes that register and adapts its pacing and tone.
Right, and they also retired the Canvas feature, moving writing functionality directly into inline chat blocks.
Sure, but is any of this actually structurally important, or is it just a smokescreen to cover up the fact that they missed their July deadline? Hey, look over here, our chatbot has feelings now.
You are absolutely justified in questioning the strategic timing there. The optics of missing the 5.6 window are terrible. But I wouldn't dismiss the personality update itself as purely a smokescreen. Because for the hundreds of millions of daily, average users, people who are not software engineers, recognizing emotional versus practical intent is actually a major quality of life upgrade. It makes the technology stickier. It integrates the model far more naturally into daily human workflows.
I guess that makes sense for the average consumer.
It does. However, your skepticism about the broader strategic picture is spot on. Developer sentiment shifts incredibly fast, and they just left developers hanging.
Yeah, they really did.
As Aaron Rose points out, OpenAI had a golden 2-week window. They were essentially the only functioning frontier AI lab on the market. Fable 5 was shut down by the government, and Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro was stuck in enterprise preview.
It was the perfect, uncontested moment to launch 5.6.
Exactly, and missing it reveals a crucial vulnerability. It shows that even the absolute giants of the industry cannot force complex, safety-critical alignment fixes on a marketing schedule. A foundational model lands when the math works and the safety checks pass, not when the PR department wants it to.
Right.
That prediction market collapse from 83% to 18% is the sound of thousands of developers sighing in collective frustration.
It's the classic bait and switch. We promised you a revolutionary new engine, but in the meantime, we gave the steering wheel a really nice leather wrap.
That's a great way to put it.
It's not nothing, but it is certainly not what we showed up for. But here's where it gets really interesting. It turns out OpenAI actually did launch a highly capable frontier-level model this week.
They did.
They just aren't letting you or me use it because they clearly learned a valuable lesson from watching the government shut down Anthropic servers.
Yep. The introduction of GPT 5.5 Cyber. This is arguably the most structurally significant piece of news in the entire digest.
Tell me about it.
The benchmarks for this new model are staggering. It achieved a record 85.6% on CyberGym, which is an incredibly rigorous testing environment for identifying software vulnerabilities and exploiting code.
85.6%.
By OpenAI's own account, this is the highest CyberGym score from any single model ever recorded.
It is a powerhouse for cybersecurity. But here is the massive catch. It is completely gated. There is no public API. You cannot access it on the consumer interface.
None of that.
It is strictly limited to a program they are calling Trusted Access for Cyber. We are talking about heavily vetted corporate partners, massive cybersecurity firms like Cisco, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, and Zscaler.
Which connects directly back to our first story regarding the Anthropic shutdown. Aaron Rose argues that this gated, highly restricted release is exactly what Anthropic's Mythos model should have been from day one.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
When you train a model that is capable of identifying mass software vulnerabilities at scale, that technology requires intensive human oversight. It requires institutional gating. You simply cannot put a tool with that kind of offensive capability into an open consumer API, charge $20 a month, and hope for the best.
Because if you do, you end up getting a phone call from federal regulators ordering you to unplug your servers. So OpenAI is looking at Anthropic's blackout. And they are preempting government directives by building the regulatory architecture themselves. They are creating the walled garden before the government forces them to build it. It is self-regulation as a pure survival mechanism.
Exactly right. And OpenAI's pivot to these highly gated enterprise-only models reveals a massive new bottleneck in the industry.
Hardware.
Yes. If you are building AI that borders on national security technology, you can't exactly just rent generic server space on the open market. You need total sovereign control over the physical hardware running the math.
Which perfectly explains why xAI just made the most aggressive infrastructure play of the entire year.
Oh, without a doubt.
Enter Elon Musk. The physical infrastructure side of this equation is just as volatile as the software side. SpaceX just signed a massive compute deal with an open-source AI startup called Reflection. And when I say massive, I mean a contract worth up to $6.3 billion.
It is a staggering amount of capital. And it fundamentally changes the nature of SpaceX's Colossus supercomputer. Up until this week, Colossus has primarily been an internal training tool used exclusively to develop xAI's Grok models.
Right, but this deal flips the script entirely. Colossus is no longer just an internal research tool. It is now a revenue-generating beast.
It really is.
SpaceX is selling compute power externally, which puts them in direct, brutal competition with the hyperscalers. And just to define that term quickly for everyone, hyperscalers are the massive cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, who typically dominate the business of renting out supercomputers to other companies.
Right.
SpaceX is now directly challenging them for that market share.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, xAI's overarching strategy is becoming terrifyingly complete. Look at their vertical integration right now.
It's wild.
They have the Frontier Model Lab building Grok. They have the $60 billion pending acquisition of Cursor, which gives them absolute dominance in the developer tooling layer, meaning they own the software that coders actually use every day.
Yep.
And now they have massive external enterprise compute supply through Colossus. They own the tools developers use to write code. They own the AI models that power those tools. And they own the physical infrastructure that runs the models. It is a fully assembled, closed-loop, vertical stack.
It is the Standard Oil playbook applied to the digital age.
Yeah.
They are owning every single piece of the pipeline from the ground up.
Exactly.
So let's zoom out for a second. The titans in the U.S. are entirely preoccupied.
Oh.
Anthropic is locked in a dark room dealing with regulators. OpenAI is busy building walled gardens for their most powerful tools. And xAI is spending billions building a vertically integrated infrastructure empire.
Meanwhile, the rest of the world is not just sitting still.
Right. While they're fighting over governance and hardware, the international market is scrambling to fill the massive vacuums these U.S. giants are leaving behind. Let's look at the global ripple effects.
Well, the regulatory disruption in the U.S. market is creating massive opportunities and, honestly, significant volatility elsewhere. Just look at Google, or Alphabet. Their stock took a steep 7.2% intraday dive this week.
That is their steepest single-day drop since February. And that wasn't because a data center caught fire or product launch failed. That was a pure brain drain.
Right.
The sudden departures of key AI researchers like Noam Shazir and John Jumper severely spooked the market. Investors recognize that in this exact moment, the talent is the product. If the minds leave, the company's valuation drops immediately.
And while Google bleeds critical talent and struggles to get Gemini 3.5 Pro out of enterprise preview, the beneficiaries of the Anthropic shutdown are moving incredibly aggressively.
Who's picking up the slack?
Chinese open source models, specifically DeepSeek and Alibaba, are seeing a massive surge in adoption. Alibaba's GLM 5.2 is actively picking up the displaced enterprise traffic from Fable 5. This is an MIT licensed model with a massive 1 million token context window.
Wow. Just to put that into perspective for you, a 1 million token context window means developers can feed the AI hundreds of pages of proprietary company data like entire financial histories or massive code bases in a single prompt memory without the model losing the thread or forgetting the beginning of the prompt.
It's a huge capability.
U.S. developers whose businesses were abruptly broken by the Fable 5 shutdown aren't just waiting around for the U.S. government to turn the lights back on. They are actively rewriting their back-end systems to migrate to Chinese open-source models just to keep their businesses operational.
Because the code doesn't care about geopolitics, it just needs an endpoint that responds.
Exactly. And it's not just China stepping up. Look at the Middle East.
Yeah, Presite AI just signed a strategic partnership with the Abu Dhabi Chamber to deploy agentic AI across 102,000 small and medium enterprises.
And we need to define agentic AI because it represents a major shift. A standard chatbot waits for you to ask it a question, and then it answers. Agentic AI is software that takes autonomous actions to achieve a goal.
It does the work for you.
Right. It can negotiate a contract, send an invoice, book a meeting, or reconcile accounting software without a human ever hitting the enter button. 102,000 small businesses in Abu Dhabi are getting integrated autonomous digital workforces.
It's massive scale.
The rapid frictionless deployment of this technology is happening outside the United States at a breakneck pace.
It highlights a deep structural paradox in the global market right now. The U.S. is currently treating advanced AI as a highly sensitive, tightly controlled asset, pulling it back behind corporate gates, security clearances, and proposed government IDs.
Yep.
Meanwhile, internationally, the singular focus is on frictionless deployment, open source adoption, and mass integration into the broader economy.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? Why does keeping track of all these disparate threads from SEC 10K filings and prediction markets to compute deals and international deployments actually matter?
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But it matters because Aaron Rose's digest proves that we have definitively crossed a threshold. AI is no longer just a neat coding assistant or a fun novelty tool to generate images. It is a legally recognized SEC-filed workforce disruptor.
Yes.
It is a geopolitical asset that governments will literally pull the plug on if they feel threatened. The tech landscape is visibly fragmenting right before our eyes. The models are either getting locked down behind government IDs and corporate gates in the West, or they are bleeding into open-source, frictionless ecosystems overseas.
This raises an important question that we haven't explicitly addressed yet, but it's lurking behind every single story today.
What is it?
If consumer AI is heading toward requiring government-mandated persona IDs, like the market predicts for the Fable restoration, and if true frontier capabilities like advanced cybersecurity are treated like restricted weapons, gated only to massive corporations with security clearances,
Right.
what happens to the independent developer?
Oh, wow. That changes the entire ecosystem.
Are we rapidly approaching a future where everyday users, students, and startup founders are permanently locked out of the true frontier of artificial intelligence? Will the general public be relegated only to the heavily filtered, perfectly safe chatbots that have simply been fine-tuned to be fun to talk to, while the actual power is hoarded by a handful of hyperscalers and governments?
That's a terrifying thought.
If the walled gardens keep getting higher, who gets left on the outside?
That is exactly the kind of cognitive dissonance we started this deep dive with.
Yeah.
You look at the interface, and the dashboard says the AI is friendly, it understands your emotional intent, it's fun to talk to.
It says it's perfectly sunny outside.
Exactly. But you look out the window and you see the supercell storm of federal regulation, massive corporate consolidation, and permanently locked doors. The weather app says sunny, but the storm is absolutely here.
It's already raining.
It's up to us to keep our eyes open, understand the mechanics of what is happening, and watch where the lightning strikes.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the interface, keep exploring these shifting fault lines on your own, and we will see you next time.